Everybody, Chrysalis Sun here with viewthevibe.com, and it is Tuesday, August 22nd, 2017. And the reason why I'm bringing this date up is because we are just one day after a major solar eclipse, which took place yesterday on Monday the 21st. Lots of intense energy, super intense energy. It's the second eclipse of the month. Bunch of retrogrades, planets in retrograde, a lot of other planets in fire signs. So we've just been dealing with a lot of abrupt changes, dismantling of energy, chaos, aggression, warlike energy. So I've been laying low. I've been laying super low, and just observing everything, watching, waiting. But I'm back, I'm recharged, and I'm super excited to bring to you this information. So this week's crystals for the zodiac is Sagittarius the Scholar. So Sagittarius is, you guys are born between November 21st to December 21st. You are ruled by the planet Jupiter. You are a fire sign, so you guys are super expansive, like big personalities, expansive personalities. People know you when you walk into a room because you fill up a space so beautifully. You guys are mutable, and you are represented by the Archer in the zodiac, and your mantra is I see. So you guys are the philosophers of the zodiac. You guys are always off, super intellectual, always seeking the truth, always calling it like you see it. It's part of your makeup, your personality, and that's just who you guys are. So, Sagittarius, you guys have a lot of great personality traits. I mean, first and foremost, you're generous, very giving, big hearts, super optimistic, super idealistic. You guys are extremely adventurous. You guys are super fun to go like on road trips with, and go off and explore things. That's what you guys do. That's what you're all about, is exploration. So that is totally your element. You guys are humorous and good-natured. You rarely find a Sagittarius in a bad mood. You guys are genuinely just pretty, happy-go-lucky, always laughing, always wanting to enjoy life, like the life of the party. And you are super straightforward. So you never really have to question whether or not, Sagittarius is being honest with you, because you're pretty much going to get what they're thinking. So what are your challenges? So first and foremost, you guys are impatient, and this has a lot to do with you guys being a fire sign. And actually, all the fire signs on some level have a certain level of impatientness to them. However, for Sagittarius, is when you guys become impatient, it tends to create another challenge for you, which is, a certain level of carelessness. So your attention to detail isn't quite there. So a lot of times you guys don't wait to listen in conversation before you get all the information from whoever you're speaking with. You guys tend to skip steps and things like that just because you guys are so impatient. Your communication tends to be unfiltered. So that's the biggest thing that I've noticed from Sagittarius. That's the biggest thing that biggest complaint that I've received about Sagittarius is that, straightforward as you guys are, it can be a little callous on certain levels. And the funny thing though, what's not sad, I won't say, but the irony behind that is that, you guys are so good-natured. You don't mean to be so callous with your communication, but there's a certain level of insensitivity, and that goes back to that carelessness. But there's a certain level of insensitivity that occurs through you guys' communication. So you'll say something, it'll be straightforward and honest. Whoever's receiving that, who's on the receiving end of that communication, gets their feelings hurt, and then you guys feel bad. You're like, well, I didn't mean it that way, but at that point, the damage is already done. The things have already been said. So you're unfiltered in your communication. Sagittariuses are inconsistent, and a lot of that has to do with you guys not being grounded. To be quite honest, you're really the least grounded of all the fire signs, and a lot of that is because you guys are always just so searching for the truth, ready to explore, that you're so quick to just drop something and just kind of go off. So there's a certain level of inconsistency that comes with being a Sagittarius. The other aspect, or another challenge, is that you guys can be overly confident. Now, obviously, there's nothing wrong with being confident, but for you guys, the overconfident comes with being idealistic and not paying attention to details. So you guys will miss certain things, and then you'll have a certain idea, you know, about a situation or a person that's not really rooted in reality, but you're so confident in it, and you'll move forward in it, and then it ends up, you know, creating a lot of challenges for you guys. Sagittarius is our perfectionist, and I see this a lot with you guys on two levels. You know, the first level is, you know, with your relationships, especially your intimate relationships. So, you know, because you guys are idealistic, you have a certain idea of how you think your partner should be, which causes you guys to be a, you know, perfectionist. And because you're so straightforward, you're quick to just say, you know, say what these expectations are, you know, or, you know, however you feel like things should be, and, you know, your partners tend to not respond well to that. The other aspect too is, you know, with you guys being perfectionists, you guys tend to be superficial. And again, that goes back to, you know, being idealistic, and not really paying attention to details. So sometimes, you know, you guys are so quick to accept what's on the surface, and you guys don't really dig deeper. And when it ends up happening is you end up having superficial relationships with other people, or be in superficial conversations, or just kind of be in a superficial energy. Now, this is an additional challenge that I've observed from Sagittarius is that you guys are extremely and overly concerned with the opinions of others. And typically it's friends and family, people you're close to, but, you know, a lot of times it filters out to just, you know, acquaintances, just people in your community. And what ends up happening with that is that it stifles you guys. You know, you stagnate, or you will not explore certain things, or you won't do certain things that may actually be good for you because you're concerned about what other people think. So that's actually something to really watch out for. A lot of Sagittarius aren't even aware of that trait within themselves. Now, getting back to you guys being perfectionists, I mentioned that it shows up in two ways. The first way being in your relationships. The second way is in your business. So what I've noticed is that, you know, with a lot of my Sagittarius friends, you guys are great entrepreneurs, especially Sagittarius women. You know, Sagittarius women tend to be great entrepreneurs, great, you know, trailblazers, great initiators. However, you know, it takes you a very long time to start your business or start your projects because you want everything to be perfect before you launch. And sometimes, you know, and again, it goes back to you guys being concerned about how people view you, you know, so you don't want anyone to view your project or your business as being, you know, subpar. However, sometimes it causes you to be a little bit too preoccupied with things that don't necessarily need to be preoccupied. And what ends up happening is either long delays and you starting your projects or your businesses, or you guys just don't, you know, because you want things to be perfect. Now, despite all the challenges that I just mentioned, you know, Sagittarius says you guys really don't need much when it comes to crystal recommendations. The reason being is because, you know, what you need is so specific that it narrows down in a lot of, you know, things, other options that you could use, you know. So when a Sagittarius comes to me for crystal recommendations, you know, I'm going to either recommend stuff that's going to ground them, or I'm going to recommend stuff that's going to help with the throat chakra, because really communication is your biggest challenge. Now, because Sagittarius is our fire signs and ruled by the planet Jupiter, really, I don't recommend any other element crystal besides Earth. So I don't really recommend water element crystals because you guys are already tapped into your emotions, and to be honest, you guys could be a bit dramatic. So you guys don't need anything that's going to help you be in your emotions. You're already tapped into that. I definitely don't recommend more fire because, you know, you're already amplified fire energy, more so than Leo and Aries. And you don't need air, because all air is going to do is just feed into the fire energy that you already have. So really, you know, the best way to go with your crystal recommendations is earth element crystals as much as possible. Now, in terms of earth element crystals, I have 3 that are just super, super perfect for Sagittarius. So first one being is black tourmaline, the second one is hematite, and the third one is onyx. These are all going to ground you guys. These are all connected to the root chakra. These are all earth element crystals. You know, they protect you from outside energies. The onyx specifically will, you know, give you that self-confidence that you need, that ease to be in your surroundings. But it also will block out energies, outside energies, so where you're not so much focused on, you know, what people are thinking about you or what's going on around you. Now for Sagittarius, I do have a disclaimer with the hematite. Even though it is an earth element crystal, it is earth and fire, and it's also connected to the planet Mars. So there is a certain level of that aggressive, masculine, warlike energy. So my suggestion is to start off with a small piece of hematite and maybe sit with it, meditate with it, see how it makes you feel. And if you notice that your fire is a little amped up or you're a little bit more aggressive, then I would either just kind of cease using it or tone it down with maybe some selenite or possibly some moonstone. But you know, be very, very careful with hematite. On the other hand, though, the reason why I recommend it is because, you know, it's calming, it's grounding, it's going to protect you from outside energies, it's definitely going to deflect any type of radiation, and it's going to, you know, bring you into focus. So it focuses the mental, you know, as well as your concentration, which, you know, Sagittarius, you guys are everywhere, so you do need assistance with that. Now for your throat chakras, I recommend two crystals. The first one is blue lace agate. Now, you know, agate is connected to the earth. It's an earth element crystal, and I've recommended it for Virgos as well. But the reason why I specifically recommend blue lace agate is because this stone is connected to the throat chakra. So it's going to calm you guys. It's going to, you know, it's going to bring you into balance. It's going to connect you with your emotions in a very healthy way, but it also will support you expressing your emotions in a very helpful, compassionate, loving way. Blue lace agate also helps with the thyroid, the lymphatic system, and it helps to reduce inflammation in the body. And my other recommendation is blue jasper. Jasper is a form of chalcedony, and you know, we all know that jasper comes in so many different forms, and the reason being is because of, you know, the traces of oxides, you know, in the chemical composition which creates the color. But blue jasper is going to also support the throat chakra, as well as connect you to the spiritual realm, and it heals degenerative diseases. So that's it for this week's Crystals for the Zodiac for Sagittarius the Scholar. You know, again, if you have any questions, definitely reach out to me. Facebook, Chrysalis Sun, Instagram, Chrysalis Sun, or you can email me, therapeuticvibrations@gmail.com, or you can visit the website, bethevibe.com.